Hey everybody, so now we're playing around with signals. Definitely want to, signals is a fairly new concept, so I definitely want to take this opportunity to learn as much as I can. So my theory, I could be wrong. My theory is that if I were to change, okay, so what's happening is this is supposed to be showing logs, and whenever I update the log listings, I'm basically publishing. That's what this set does, is publishing to all log signals, and then in the count indicator, I'm listening to all log signals, but I'm subscribed to all log signals. I really wish they'd have used that naming scheme. I don't know why they didn't, um, but by assigning this to this, I'm subscribing. It implies that I've subscribed, and then when I do this set, it implies that I've published. And I don't like it whenever I use the word implies in coding. I like things to be like, this is what I did. But basically, what I did was set, and by setting, the other thing updated. So maybe the whole idea is for it to be simplified. I don't know. But anyways, but what's happening is if I do set some logs, that log listing will fire. We can see that it fires if I do it. So I'll just hi there, and then see log listings fired 3 times, but my log count did not. So my theory, my belief, current belief system specifies that if I were to change this signal here to a number instead of any, which like is not feasible, but this is kind of a anti-pattern that I see a lot in Angular. Angular young new Angular developers making, and then so this should break, right? Yeah, because this guy here is looking for a length, and since it's a number, if it was a string, it actually would break in a bad way. So now I'm saying that this is that number, and I think is that it? Do oh yeah. Then I also am setting it. So I'm gonna hold the control button down and click this button, and I'm gonna say length. I believe that this should solve our short-term problem here. Oh, looks like I got another problem. And oh, this is a number, and it starts off at 0. Okay, now let's try it. Hello. See, it works. And see, where are we on time? We are at, wait. Oh, 3 minutes and 21 seconds, 23 seconds. Okay, so what is happening here? All right, so we are like deep into a bunch of different concepts here. But probably at the core, if you have taken any courses, you have any sort of like academic background in this stuff, what you've heard this phrase, and you've heard the phrase of passing by reference or passing by value, which, like, when you usually hear that phrase in the context of academia, where they're trying to teach you things, that phrase is uh, the reason they use that phrase is because you're trying to wrestle with a lot of different concepts. Um, and that phrase is bullshit. It's just not true. But it is useful because you are dealing with some stuff, and the stuff that you need to learn. Now, the problem with that phrase is that um, it's not true, and a lot of people end up becoming teachers without ever being like exposed to like it's kind of thing that like you would teach a new person, but then later on you make sure that like in chapter 8 that you fix it. um and but most people never get to the part where it gets fixed. So there it in both cases they're passing a reference. I mean, it's a reference either way. It doesn't just magically create some number or some string or some primitive value. Okay, well actually let me take one more step back. So what somebody would say is that in this case you're passing a reference to the log listing array. But in this case, you're passing the actual number. But in both, so that's not true. In this case, you're passing a reference to the actual variable. And in this case, you're passing a reference to the new variable that it just created to give to you that holds the new number. All right, so you got to let that sink in. In both cases, it's passing you a reference, but in one case, it's passing you a brand new reference. In the other case, it's passing you a reference to something that already exists. It's not changing a new one. And that's super important to understand because it kind of takes some of the magic away. There is no magical number or reference thing that it's passing over. There's no magical number. It like everything is saved to a place in memory, and so this number gets the length of this thing gets set up, and it gets saved to an address, and then that new address gets sent to the place. So in both cases, it's getting an address, but in one case, it's getting an old address. In one case, it's getting a new address. The thing is signals, the way it's set up, and all kinds of other things, the way inputs are set up, the way all kinds of things are set up. Um, it doesn't look at the value, it looks at the address, and when it sees that there's a new address, then it updates. Um, it will not update. It won't go look inside of the address and see if there's some change of the value. It just checks to see if it's the same, and that's why this works. And so many times, the way in Agile, especially the way they set up their stories, they'll be like, just set it up where there's a number there and some text, and then you set it up and it works great. You set up something just like this, and then they go, okay, now show the data in here, and you're like, oh, okay. Well, what I'll do is I'll change this. Instead of this being a number, I'm going to have this be an array, and I'm just going to send it this array. And the thing is when you change the value inside the array, you're still sending the same address. So since it has the same address, it doesn't recognize that there was a change, so it doesn't update the screen. So generally the answer is to send the React and Angular answer is to create a brand new array and send it that so that it knows how to work on that. And they always say, they give some like, oh, it needs to be immutable, all these weird things. But and maybe that's true, maybe it's not true, whatever. Maybe it's BS, maybe it's not. But the thing is it covers up this whole concept of, hey, your address, there's an address change. And when you understand that concept that, hey, that the screen will only update when the actual address of the object changes, that opens up a lot of, it really frees you from a lot of concepts that are making you hate life, because like when you don't really understand the underlying things, it just kind of makes you dread doing certain things, because no one likes to sit there in total confusion doing a bunch of tweaks, and then it works, and then you're like, okay, God, don't touch it, please don't touch it. Oh my gosh, that guy touched it, I'm so mad at him for touching it. Oh, I'm so mad at her for touching it. Why did she touch it? It was working. It's so much better to understand things and all that. So anyways, passing by reference and passing by value, if you've ever heard that, is not true. In both cases, you're passing by reference. In one case, you're passing a pre-existing reference, so whatever is receiving it doesn't in most cases will not recognize the change. In another case, you're creating a brand new reference and sending it, and then it recognizes the change. In this example, since this is a primitive, it's creating a brand new version of it. a brand new reference, and then it's recognizing that that reference has changed. If it had been a string or any other, or a boolean or anything like that, then it's a primitive. And whenever it's a primitive, it has special code in there that tells it to create a new reference and send a new reference. If it's an object, if it's an array or an object or something more like that, then it will send a, it won't make a new, it'll just send you the old one. So anyways, that is that. I'm sorry for cussing, and happy coding. Bye.